Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Nutrition and Child Care, CNCC-2, Organizing Child Care Services, Block, To the Child, Development in the First 12-month, Unit-6 Prenatal Development and Care. 6.1, Introduction. The growth of the baby within the mother's womb is most fascinating. It is important to understand prenatal development so that the mother can take adequate care during pregnancy and thereby provide a good environment for the baby to develop. The health of the mother, the amount and the quality of food she eats, and her emotional states influence the development of the baby within the womb. The uterine environment not only influences development in the prenatal period but is also important for development and adjustment after birth. With advancements in the field of medicine, we have information about intrauterine growth which was not available earlier. There are detailed illustrations and pictures of fetuses in textbooks of physiology. Nowadays there are methods to scan the unborn baby in the womb using very advanced techniques. The period of prenatal development is no longer completely mysterious, though we do not know the answers to all the questions. Objectives. After studying this unit, you should be able to enumerate the stages of prenatal development and describe the characteristics of each stage. Explain the type of care the mother needs during pregnancy in terms of health, nutrition and emotional support. Describe how the body systems begin to function before birth. 6.2, Conception. Conception occurs around the middle of the woman's menstrual cycle, when a sperm from the male parent unites with the ovum, also called the egg, from the female parent to form a single cell. This cell, called zygote, is the first cell of a new person. The life of a human being thus begins at conception. Prenatal development from conception to birth takes about 266 days or 9 months. You have read in Block L that genes contain all the information necessary for development. They are responsible for the transmission of characteristics from the parents to the child. It is during conception that the genetic material is transmitted. The first cell after conception, i.e., the zygote, contains everything necessary for the development of a person. Let us now read about the development of the baby in the womb. 6.3, Intrauterine growth. The period of prenatal development is usually divided into 3 stages: the period of the ovum, the period of the embryo, and the period of the fetus. We will now read about the developments that take place during each of these stages. 6.3.1, Period of the ovum. This period lasts from conception to 2 weeks. During this period, the single zygote begins to multiply rapidly and forms several dozen cells. This mass of cells differentiates into an inner and outer layer of cells, separated by a hollow cavity. The group of inner cells will form the baby. The cells of the outer layer will form the placenta, umbilical cord, amniotic sac and other structures. In the earlier block you read that development proceeds through differentiation. This division of the zygote into an outer and inner layer of cells, which later form different structures, illustrates the process of differentiation. During this period, small tendrils begin to project from the outer wall of the zygote and burrow into the wall of the uterus. In this manner the zygote attaches itself to the wall of the uterus and begins to get its nourishment from the mother's blood. This process is called implantation. Later these tendrils form the placenta and the umbilical cord. The implantation of the zygote occurs by the end of the 2nd week. This is the end of the period of the ovum. 6.3.2, Period of the embryo. The term embryo is used to refer to the developing baby from the time of implantation until the beginning of bone formation. In other words, this period begins from the 3rd week after conception and ends in the 8th week. During this period cell division continues and the cells differentiate into various types. Development during this short period of 5 weeks is very rapid. This period is crucial in prenatal development since it is now that all the major organs, tissues and systems of the body are being formed. The most rapid development of a majority of the organs and systems occurs during this period and in the early part of the fetal period, i.e. up to 12 weeks after conception. You have read in Unit 3 that an organ is most vulnerable to harmful influences at the time when it is developing most rapidly. Thus the period of the embryo and the early fetal period are critical in development. If the mother takes drugs, is exposed to radiation, has an accident or has an infection like rubella during these periods, it can cause most harm to the developing baby. You would also recall reading in Unit 3 that development follows 2 directions: head to toe and center to ends. These are evident in prenatal Development also. In keeping with these principles of development, you state which organs would be the first to develop and which ones would develop later. Write down your answers and check them from the following description. By 3 weeks, the head and the posterior region, the front and the back of the embryo can be distinguished easily. The brain and the spinal cord also begin to develop, and they develop faster compared to other organs during this period. By this time, a rudimentary heart also develops and it begins to beat a few days later. This is an important sign of life in the embryo and indicates that basic functions are beginning. By the end of 4 weeks, the sensory organs, eyes, ears, nose, kidneys, liver and the alimentary canal begin to develop. Small projections begin to appear where the arms and the legs will be formed. Between 5 and 8 weeks, the eyes, nose and ears become more distinct and the baby's face begins to have a human appearance. During the 5th week, the reproductive system begins to form. By the 7th week, the arms and legs, hands and feet, toes and fingers are formed, though all of these are still to develop fully. The internal organs like the intestines, liver, pancreas, lungs and kidneys take a definite shape and some organs begin to function. The liver begins to produce red blood cells, the kidneys start to excrete urine and the circulatory system becomes operative. The respiratory and digestive systems are formed, though they do not begin to function yet. By this time, the embryo has a skeleton made of soft bony tissue called cartilage. Thus, by the end of this period, the main parts of the body are developed in some basic form. The embryo by this time is 1.5 inches long. During this period, a sac-like structure forms around the embryo and encloses it totally. This is called the amniotic sac and it contains the fluid within which the developing baby floats. The sac with the fluid serves to protect the developing baby from any injury or shock the mother may have. It also helps to maintain a constant temperature for the fetus. The placenta and the umbilical cord also form in the period of the embryo. The placenta is a disc-like organ formed from the tissues of the mother and the embryo. It is attached to the wall of the uterus. The placenta has a very important function. It is here that the exchange of oxygen and nutrients from the mother's blood to the embryo's blood takes place. Also, the waste products and carbon dioxide from the baby's blood are passed on to the mother's blood. The placenta is connected to the embryo by the umbilical cord. Thus, the umbilical cord carries food substances from the mother's blood to the embryos and removes the waste products from the embryo's blood into the mother's blood. The placenta and the umbilical cord enable the baby to survive in the womb. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU 6.3.3, Period of the Fetus. This period extends from the beginning of the 9th week until birth. Its beginning is marked by the development of the bone structure. During this period, refinement and development of the various body systems takes place. Now the growth of the head region slows down and the rest of the body grows more rapidly. The major development changes in this period have been summarized in the table that follows. Table 6. A. Major developments during the period of the fetus. Look at the screen for table content. About 2 weeks before birth, most babies settle with the head towards the lower end of the uterus. Generally, babies are born this way, head first, and this is the easiest and safest way of delivery for the mother as well as for the child. Sometimes the baby does not position itself head downwards in the uterus. It lies in a crosswise manner or lies with its feet towards the lower end of the uterus. If the baby cannot be turned while in the uterus, it will have to be a breech delivery or it will have to be delivered by cesarean section. 6.4. Birth of the child. When the baby positions itself head downwards in the mother's body, the mother feels lightened pressure on the upper abdomen but greater pressure upon the bladder. This lightening which the mother feels because of the shifting of the baby's weight is the first sign that birth may occur within a few days. The onset of labor pains indicates that the birth of the child is imminent. During labor, the amniotic sac ruptures and the fluid comes out. The uterus contracts rhythmically to push the child outward through the birth canal. The structure of the mother's body and the formation of the baby's bones, particularly those of the head, make it possible for the baby to emerge. After the child is born, the umbilical cord and the placenta are expelled from the womb. The umbilical cord is surgically cut and the baby, from being totally dependent on the mother for survival, has to learn to lead an independent existence. The presence of a trained person during the birth process is important whether the delivery is conducted at home or in the hospital. The health of the mother and the baby depends on how the delivery is conducted. If, for example, the umbilical cord is cut with unclean and unsterilized instruments, the child may get tetanus and die. A child is born with well-developed and functioning sensory capacities of vision, hearing, touch and smell. In fact, research has now shown that some of these capacities are functioning even before the child is born. The evidence from these studies indicates that the auditory system is well developed some weeks before birth and the unborn baby is responsive to sounds and voices in the environment. It is now also known that sounds can be heard in the uterus. Through the use of sophisticated technology, researchers have recorded the sound of the mother's heartbeat, the rumbling of her intestines, the movement of the lungs, the music from the radio, the conversation between the mother and other people, the sound of a passing train and many other sounds as audible in the mother's womb. That the fetus reacts to these sounds is indicated by many studies. In one study, researchers sounded automobile horns and loud buzzers near the mother's abdomen. The fetus responded by increasing physical activity such as kicking and other body movements. Research on babies 1 to 2 hours old shows that the newborns responded more to the recording of their mother's voice compared to those of other women. This is so because the mother's voice is one which the unborn baby has heard the most. Newborns are also sensitive to the rhythm of their native language. In a study done on French newborns, the babies moved their bodies more to the sound of French than of Russian. In one particular study, pregnant women listened to a particular tune during the last weeks of their pregnancy. After the babies were born, the recordings of this tune as well as other tunes which the pregnant mothers had not heard were played to the newborns. They clearly preferred the familiar tune, i.e., the one they must have heard in the womb. The above discussion also shows that, contrary to popular belief, the period of prenatal development is not one of passive existence for the child. The child is active and responds to stimulation. It seems that the environment within the womb prepares the child for what lies ahead. Pictures of fetuses show some of them sucking their thumb in the amniotic sac. Thus the child has practiced sucking while in the uterus and a normal newborn is able to suck within moments of birth. The fetus does not need to breathe, since it gets oxygen from the mother's blood through the placenta, yet the diaphragm practices breathing movements while the child is in the womb. The unborn child does not need to eat and drink, yet it swallows the amniotic fluid and thus the digestive and excretory systems are put to work and help prepare for life outside the womb. 6.5. Care of the mother during pregnancy. Pregnancy brings about many changes in the woman's body. The increased activity of her systems and the growing baby make many demands on her body. The mother requires special care during this period so that her health as well as the baby's does not suffer. You will read about the kind of care the mother needs in the following paragraphs. The care the mother gets will influence the growth of the fetus in the prenatal period. If we view the aspects of care of the mother in another manner, we can also refer to them as the environmental factors that influence prenatal development. 6.5.1 Nutrition. You have read that the developing fetus gets nutrition from the mother. Besides, the mother's body is also undergoing changes and she needs extra calories, proteins, vitamins and minerals. Because of both these reasons, the expectant mother needs extra food. Some minerals and vitamins are required in greater quantities as compared to others. These are calcium, iron and B complex vitamins. The quality of the diet is as important as its quantity. To ensure that the mother gets a nutritive diet, care should be taken to include fruits, green vegetables, pulses, milk and its products. Mothers who have an adequate diet have better health during pregnancy and fewer disorders. If the mother is healthy, the chances of her delivering a premature baby are low. Children born of mothers who have a good diet have better health, higher resistance to infections and fewer chances of contracting cold, bronchitis, pneumonia and tetanus. Mothers who have a poor diet have infants who have low birth weight and this can have adverse effects on the child's physical and mental development. Thus the type of food the mother eats shows a long-term lasting effect on the child developing within her womb and therefore, the mother should ensure that she eats the right type of food in the right amount. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 6.5.2 Healthcare. The health of the mother has a direct impact on the health of the growing child. If some disease-causing virus, bacteria or harmful chemicals are present in the mother's blood, they pass on to the baby's blood through the placenta. Let us read about the healthcare which is needed for the mother with reference to the following points. Diseases and disorders during pregnancy, the organisms that cause rubella, syphilis, diphtheria, influenza, typhoid, hepatitis, tetanus and chickenpox can pass on to the fetus through the placenta if they are present in the mother's blood. The time during which the mother has the infection is critical in determining the degree of effect on the developing fetus. As you know, major malformations in the fetus result if these infections occur in the first few months of pregnancy, particularly in the first 12 weeks, then in the later months. You have read about the effects of rubella on the fetus. Therefore, before the woman conceives, she should have been immunized against rubella. The pregnant mother should be immunized against tetanus also, as this is a major cause of mortality among mothers and infants. Another disorder that can occur during pregnancy is toxemia. In its mild form, it is characterized by high blood pressure, rapid and excessive weight gain, and retention of fluid in the tissues. If the condition is controlled at this stage, there is no danger to the fetus. If it continues to progress, it can lead to convulsions and even coma, which can cause death of the mother and the fetus. If the baby is born, her development in all areas will be seriously affected. Smoking and alcohol consumption, heavy drinking and excessive smoking during pregnancy can lead to low birth weight of the infant. The infant is also likely to be less active in the first few months. Additionally, alcohol also causes deformities of the fetus eyes, ears and heart, development of extra fingers and toes, and an abnormally small head. Illnesses are more common among infants of mothers who smoke and consume alcohol. Drugs. A mother who takes strong drugs and narcotics is most likely to have an infant who is irritable, has tremors and convulsions, vomiting, diarrhea and difficulty in breathing. These symptoms may last as long as 6 months. Besides these drugs, many medicines can also have a harmful effect on the fetus. Some drugs taken by the mother may affect the child later during infancy. For example, the intake of tetracycline by a pregnant woman can cause stained teeth in the infant. The effects of many drugs, even the most commonly used such as aspirin, are not yet known. A woman who is pregnant should not take drugs/medicines unless absolutely necessary, and then too on the advice of a doctor. 6.5.3 Emotional states. The mother's emotions can influence the development of the fetus. This is because emotions such as rage, fear and anxiety lead to release of hormones and other chemical substances in the mother's bloodstream. These substances are transmitted through the placenta to the fetus bloodstream and may be irritating to it. Whenever the mother is undergoing emotional stress, the bodily movements of the fetus increase. If the mother is upset and unhappy for prolonged periods, the baby is likely to have low birth weight. The infant also tends to be irritable, feeds irregularly, has excessive bowel movements, cries excessively, and shows an unusual need to be held. Emotional tension can result in difficult labor and delivery. Therefore, it is important that the mother remains happy and relaxed during pregnancy and has an accepting attitude towards the child to be born. Check your progress exercise. 2. Answer the following questions briefly in the space provided below. 1. What are the effects of inadequate diet during pregnancy on the health of the mother and the baby? 2. In what way does excessive smoking and consumption of alcohol by the pregnant woman harm the baby? 3. List the 3 environmental factors that affect prenatal development. 4. Why is it important for the mother to remain happy and relaxed during pregnancy? 6.6 Summary. In this unit you have read about the development of the baby within the mother's womb. Conception occurs when the sperm unites with the egg to form a single cell called the zygote. This is the first cell of a human being. Development from conception till birth takes around 9 months. The period of prenatal development is usually divided into 3 stages equals the period of the ovum, which lasts from conception to 2 weeks, the period of the embryo, which lasts from the 3rd week after conception to the 8th week, and the period of the fetus, which begins from the 9th week and lasts till birth. The period of the embryo and the early fetal period, i.e., the period up to 12 weeks after conception, is a critical period, since this is the time when the major organs and systems of the body are being formed and are developing at a fast rate. At this time, the embryo is vulnerable to harmful influences. If the mother has an illness, takes drugs, ingests some harmful chemicals, or has an accident, it may cause irreversible damage to the developing baby. The fetus derives its food supply and oxygen from the mother's blood via the placenta and the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord also carries the waste products and carbon dioxide from the fetus blood to the placenta, from where it diffuses to the mother's bloodstream. The 7th month of gestation is an important period in prenatal development. By this time, all the systems of the body have developed and are functioning so that if the child is born prematurely, she can survive. It is important to have a trained person during birth, whether the delivery is conducted at home or in the hospital, so that the health of the mother and the baby is ensured. The child is born with well-developed capacities of hearing, smell, vision and touch. Research has shown that the capacities of hearing and vision are developed even before birth. The excretory, digestive and circulatory systems are also working during the prenatal period. You have also read that it is important that the mother take care of herself during pregnancy. She must maintain good health, eat enough food to take care of her increasing nutritional needs and remain relaxed and happy. Anger, fear and tension lead to the release of hormones and other chemical substances in her body. These may harm the fetus. All these factors of care of the mother are important because they can affect the development of the fetus. 6.7 Glossary. Gestation period, the duration/period of pregnancy. Intrauterine, within or inside the uterus. In this case, we mean the development of the baby inside the womb. Vulnerable, sensitive, open to harmful influences. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.